So I remember what the third part was. The unicorn's horn. Now they knew who had the unicorn's horn. Charlie said it had been taken by a knight from the kingdom, the Dark Kingdom, the Purple Kingdom, which we talked about before. And the knight had hidden it near the dragons again. And the princess said, "Oh, I don't want to go back by the dragons. They already got in a fight over us before." But Charlie said, "Don't worry." And the princess got on the phoenix's back, and Charlie and the phoenix flew toward the dragons. They got halfway there when something terrible happened. You see, the witches were still waiting outside. And since Charlie had turned off the lamp, they came out. And there were three witches. And one of them grabbed Charlie. They were flying on their brooms, so they were able to catch up to them. One of them grabbed Charlie by the wings, started pulling him down. The other one grabbed onto the phoenix and started pulling her down. And the third one pulled on the princess and pulled her right off of the phoenix's back, kidnapped her, and then flew off. And the other two witches were occupying the two phoenixes, and they were fighting and fighting and fighting. And eventually, they let go. But the princess was captured. Now the phoenixes tried to chase the witches, but the witches had a magic trick, and they disappeared. And the third witch, the one that had the princess, took her and hid her. Now Charlie, the phoenix, had to figure out how to get her back. And Charlie said, "Well, we got to get the unicorn's horn too." And Charlie said, Phoenix said, "Forget that. We got to get the princess." And they had a little fight about that, but in the end, they decided that if they had the unicorn's horn, they could use their magic of the horn to point them to where the princess was. So that's what they decided to do. So they had to get it from the dragon. Now, since Charlie and the phoenix didn't look exactly the same, they couldn't pretend to be one another, but they had a plan to pretend to only be one bird. So Charlie got on the back of the phoenix, and they flew together, flapped their wings at the same time, so that they looked like one bird flying in. And they flew into the dragon's lair where the horn was being hidden. And the dragon, of course, woke right up from sleeping on top of the pile of treasure. And the phoenix flew right to the back of the pile of treasure and crashed down into the pile of treasure. So there was a big explosion of gold coins flying everywhere. And the phoenix got off the top, and Charlie, the other phoenix, of course, kept flying on. And the phoenix buried herself under the gold coins. And Charlie kept going and circled around. And the dragon chased after Charlie, thinking that there was only one bird in there. And Charlie circled around and made it back out and flew away. And the dragon started chasing after him. And he flew and he flew. And he flew. And the dragon was chasing and chasing. And Charlie was headed toward the lair of another dragon. The blue dragon, of course. Because the red dragon was the one where they had hid the unicorn's horn. So anyways, the phoenix came out from the gold pile, grabbed the unicorn's horn, headed out of the cave, and headed back to Charlie's place where they were going to meet. Now Charlie ended up flying right into the lair of the other dragon and waking up the other dragon, and then heading back until the two dragons found each other, and sure enough they got into a fight, and Charlie was able to escape and got back at his place. Then they took the unicorn's horn, and sure enough they were able to get it to start pointing in the direction of the princess. And they used it to follow. They used the magic to figure out where the princess was. And they were able to find the princess. And and rescue her. Because the unicorn's magic, combined with a lamp, were able to find the princess and blind the witches so they couldn't see. And then they got back to Charlie's place after freeing the princess, and they took the harp and the lamp, and I had said it was a fig branch earlier, that's what it was, but it wasn't a fig branch, it was a harp. in the unicorn's horn, and they took it back to the museum where they had been stolen. The museum was very, very thankful. The princess eventually had to fly back home. Now the king had realized she was missing because they had been gone for hours and hours and hours and had missed dinner, and had sent out a search party to try to find them. But the search party hadn't gotten anywhere. They were looking all around the kingdom and had no clue as to where they had gone. And the king was very, very mad. And when he heard the adventures that they had, the king was very upset and said, next time, if you ever go into the land of the dragons, you have to get special permission. You can't just have me wave my hand and let you go. And the princess said, okay. And she gave the king a hug and a kiss, and went to the queen, gave her a hug and a kiss, and they lived happily ever after. Good night, Carmen.